Hour 2, Jones and Keefe here on WEEI. It's Patriots Friday. We already talked to Dietrich Wise. Jelani Tavai making headlines this morning.
Sure did.
On the Greg Hill Show. Reacting to that with all your phone calls, 617-779-7937. We'll also get to our four-pack of questions for Patriots and Bills coming up. Celtics were in action last night, as were the Bruins. I do want to work our way through that. But some of you waiting patiently here on the phones. What we talked about are those Tavai comments. We interviewed Dietrich Wise.
Yep.
I think Mike Reese put the hit out on Jerod Mayo today, officially.
There's a lot going on.
I think Alex Van Pelt said goodbye to the media yesterday.
Pretty much.
And so there's a lot going on with the Patriots. We'll take all your thoughts on it, starting with Pete in Lexington. Hello, Pete.
Yeah, hi, you guys. I think you already nailed it. I called in. The ownership actually does something besides collect money. And these guys, they're good people, but they're old. They're out of touch. They haven't had to be real active owners for 3 decades. And, they did Mayo a disservice by hiring him. Kraft keeps saying he measures 9 times, cuts once. He didn't measure. He just cut. 5 years ago, he named his coach. So that's what I got to say. It's sad, but it happens to us all. New ownership.
Yeah, if they fire
I don't know
Mayo,
if you're getting that, but I mean,
you're not getting new
you're
ownership.
not getting that.
You might get a new guy calling the shots. Like Robert may fade into the background. You might get Jonathan.
Although there's a lot of different discussion around that about how much he's already doing anyway.
I think
maybe some of these moves, I don't know. Do you think Bill Belichick not being the coach here had more to do with Jonathan or Robert? I mean, maybe both. I mean, we all watched the Dynasty, so maybe very much both.
I still think it's Robert, but, does Jonathan have bigger influence on his dad these days?
Maybe.
Is he more willing to listen these days? I think something like that is possible. I think his role has grown, as has Robin Glazer's within the organization. And so that's not a different ownership group per se, but it would be a different person who might handle it differently in Jonathan Kraft. So I'd allow for that. But on the Krafts, if they want to win back their fan base, you fire this coach. You blow the whole thing up.
That's a start. You're going to need to win games, right?
No,
but that's a good
the first
offseason
step to winning the fan base back.
So,
because I kind of think the Krafts are as lost as John Henry is. And I don't think you're going to get it back. And the one thing I give John Henry that I can't give the Krafts, they've won different ways. They've won with different managers. They've won with different GMs. They won with different groups of players.
Yeah.
They won after David Ortiz.
No, Robert Kraft, there's pretty much a specific formula for their winning.
One or two, if you want to give it to Bill, common denominators. It's Brady and Belichick, and you were just along for the ride. So you want to win them back, you have to prove you're not John Henry. You're not disinterested. Your head isn't in the sand. And you're going to take the bull by the horns, acknowledge a mistake, and change things. If Mayo's back, he might as well be John Henry. He's not even John Henry, if that's what he does.
Well, the line on his on the call screen said Krafts need to evolve. The call ended up being they need to move on. But, them evolving. So if there's 3 scenarios, let me present you. Which would you say is the most likely all the way to least likely?
Okay.
They retain Jerod Mayo. They fire Mayo, but bring in somebody they have a relationship with, like Mike Vrabel. Or they fire Mayo and bring in somebody that has no ties to the Patriots.
Okay, so what I want would be the last one.
No. What do you think?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying what I want is the last one.
It's also the least likely.
I think it's the least likely. I think the way you ask them is the order. Because I don't trust them, I still think Mayo's back.
Yeah.
Even with the hit out from Mike Reese, I think he's back. And so I'd be okay with Vrabel replacing Mayo because Mayo shouldn't be back. I'd be okay with it. But what I actually want is they completely blow it up and go with Ben Johnson, or I've suggested Liam Cohen, something completely different. But I think that's by far the least likely. If they move on from Mayo, they'll just run right back to somebody who
they might not even interview anybody. He might just be Vrabel again.
That's true. They might. They still might not even do an interview process.
Legally, they might have to do a process. They might have to interview candidates, right?
But it'd be a sham.
Yeah, for sure it would be. And it'd be the same idea, and they just bring in Mike Vrabel, but. Yeah, you know what? Even with all this going on, I'm with you. I do think Mayo comes back, and I think fans are going to be beside themselves.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. But
imagine on Monday we're talking about Mayo's back, and they have the 4th pick. They win the game on Sunday, and then you're like, see, they end the year on the high note. It's like, no, you beat Mitch Trubisky in a game that you needed to lose. You now have the 4th pick in the draft in 4 months. And you're telling us you're bringing back Mayo?
The whole thing has been a disaster.
It really has. John Heyman nailed it. How much weight do you put into Mike Reese, that column today, the subsequent tweet with all the bullet points?
Yeah.
Patriots coach Jerod Mayo's roller coaster first season. He goes back and details them all. He starts in London, calling the team soft.
Yeah.
and said people in the press room were like whispering to each other, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, we can't believe he just did
It's
that.
funny because it's just like a telling of the events. And some of this stuff, as a fan, maybe you'd forgotten about. There's just so many things that just kind of pile up. Like there's, that moment where he called the team soft. That's definitely one that stands out. But there are plenty to go through, let alone the record. I mean, the record sort of speaks for itself. I think just the fact that the defense sucks as bad as it does, that's alarming, right? You thought no offensive line, no wide receivers, you're not going to score a lot of points. Yeah, makes sense. But the defense to take like 3 steps backwards, that's a really bad look for Jerod Mayo. So yeah, you add it all up. This is the kind of thing, because people always preach like, well, it's a bad sign from a franchise to fire a coach after 1 year. Like, you got to show patience, and Jelani Tavai's Rome wasn't built in a day thing. But then when you take a look at some of the coaches that were fired after year 1, wasn't that the right call?
Yeah.
Like, should they have hung on to Urban Meyer for another year, or Freddie Kitchens for another year?
Jim
or
Tomsula farting in the middle of press conferences? Like,
I
no.
don't need another year of that.
No.
And Mayo's way closer to that, if not right in there with those guys, than he is somebody that had a bad first year and then a big jump up the next year.
By the way, here's what Reese put out on social media. He said, after detailing Mayo and Elliott Wolf, their first years, the Krafts were confident in them. He says the Patriots are not buttoned up as a franchise at the moment.
No.
Clarity from the Krafts should be coming. That feels like a weighty line.
A statement, a written statement?
Strong leadership from them is needed now more than ever. You detailed the defense here, and then we can get into some of the Celtics and Bruins. Greg is in Rhode Island waiting patiently. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, guys, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
I hear a lot about Alex Van Pelt. I mean, you could choose whichever rat hole you want to go on with this season regarding these guys. But the defense, to me, just seems they're just in the way of whatever offense they're facing. There's not a lot of fumbles, and you can read, the statistics. There's not a lot of interceptions, sacks, not even any schemes or anything to kind of coach up the guys that they have. I know they've had injuries. I get that, but they just don't seem to have any creativity, and the culture thing with Jerod Mayo, to kind of go off quick on another thing, is as far as him not building a culture, no matter who you have on that team, the culture is what you could build, no matter if you had, whoever on the team. So that's just what I wanted to think. I'll listen to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it said on the call screen Covington has to go. The defensive numbers, I mean, I know the defense has been bad. Reading through Reese today, I was surprised at how bad some of the rankings were, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, they haven't ranked this low in points per game allowed, which I think is probably the best metric, right? Especially when you have this many games to look at. The last time, I think, was 1990.
Nice.
They had a good year that year where they went, 1-15. That's where they're at. And obviously 24 years, you have Belichick, a handful of years, you have Pete, and you have Parcells, all defensive guys. And so your defenses were always significantly better. And right now they're 26th in points per game.
Here are the ranks. He compares this year's defense to last year's defense, which I thought was overrated. I thought there were certain games where Bill coached it to keep it close, not to get blown out, not to get embarrassed, to keep his job.
Yeah.
Okay? And by the way, I am not pining for Bill to come back by any means.
No.
Reese says the unit ranks last in the NFL in quarterback contacts.
Contacts?
Yeah, touch him.
Well, Justin Herbert, did he get hit once?
I don't
last
believe
week?
so. Not a lot of quarterback contact in that game.
No.
Isn't that what got Ngakoue cut? He hit him late.
Oh, that's true.
No, you're
And
right.
Ross Tucker's like, or that's Chris Rose. That counts as a pressure.
My bad. He did get hit. Yep.
The unit ranks last in the NFL in quarterback contacts, according to ESPN research. They slipped from 7th last year to 26th on third down conversions. The Patriots rank or have 12 takeaways this year. That's 30th in the NFL. Entering last year's finale, they had given up 349 points, 37 touchdowns. This year it's 401 and 45 touchdowns. Red zone defense is currently 24th in touchdown percentage after they were 5th a year ago. So they dropped off significantly on defense. Mayo's a defensive coach. Yeah. I would lump him in with DeMarcus Covington, but I would say the bare minimum you do is say goodbye to DeMarcus Covington this offseason.
Yeah, and then the question becomes, when you're looking at both coordinators, is the head coach, if the head coach is staying, do you really need to bring, and this is probably a better question for the offseason, but quickly, do you need to bring in a defensive coordinator who's going to run the old Patriots and like Mayo's defense? Or wouldn't you say Mayo's not really doing much anyway, so if you can find somebody that has whatever their defense is, bring that in.
That's what I would want, but I'm sure they bring in another Patriots connect. Yeah, I'm sure they just do the same thing and just try to, rearrange the deck chairs. 617-779-7937. You can jump in on the Patriots, Jelani Tavai's comments, Jerod Mayo's job security, Alex Van Pelt, DeMarcus Covington. We talked to Dietrich Wise earlier today. So a lot of stuff going on here on a Patriots Friday on Jones and Keefe.